Coach, how you doing? Do you want to do an opening statement or go straight to questions? Okay, we have Auburn coach Bruce Pearl, and we'll start with questions in the back.
Hey, Coach. Going into this year, do you as a coach, you've been doing this a while, look at rankings going in with recruiting, or we had the SEC media, you guys are ranked in the top 5, does that matter to you and your players, or you kind of just look at that and it's a long season?
I've always been better as the underdog. I remember in 2018, they picked us, CBS had picked us to go 4-14 in the SEC. And we opened up at Tennessee on the road, and Tennessee was a team that was going to factor for the championship. And somehow I got 4-14 up on the scoreboard, and I talked about that. And I did think we were better than that. That team, I think, went 14-4 and won the regular season championship, picked almost last. So I'm way more comfortable in that role. I saw the way it was ranked out, and I thought it was pretty close. I thought we were somewhere between 4 and 7. With the high being 4, and I think that's what you'll see. You're in the top 7 teams in our league, get a chance to be in the top 30 teams in the country. So when we were trying to develop the program and grow the program, the rankings mattered in recruiting. I don't think there's so many other factors in recruiting right now. Rankings don't matter nearly as much. So you look at it, and, the key is, are we good enough Sunday to win an opponent, and then from that point forward, are we going to continue to get better? And if we do, we got a chance.
Stay here in the corner.
Johnny Condon, ABC 3340 in Birmingham. Coach, obviously losing Jabari and Walker, there's no replacing those two guys specifically, but how are you going to try to replace the production that they gave you both on the offensive and defensive ends of the floor?
The greatest thing about Walker and Jabari is they both were humble and hungry. They both just wanted to get better. They both wanted to win championships. They both wanted to be great teammates. It's all they cared about every day. And they were pros, and they were great kids. And that's the culture we have. I got to tell you, replacing them with John Broome and Yohan Traylor, I don't know how we could do any better. My coaching staff did a great job. Not that either one of them are either one of them right now, but really, really good players, really good prospects, great kids. And so, they'll fill in some of the minutes. But Jabari was the third player taking the draft. Walker was the National Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, I don't know who we would have recruited. So it really, in my mind, boils down to how much did everybody else improve? How much better is Wendell Green and Zep Jasper? K.D. Johnson and Alan Flanagan. Chris Moore and Jalen Williams, Dylan Carwell and Babatunde. I mean, just that's going to be, in my mind, what's going to make up for not having 2 first-round draft picks.
Back here to your right.
Hi, Coach. Ike Jones from the War Report. First, hopefully your recovery is still going well from your surgery, but just a question about what did you feel like you learned from your team and the experience that you all had over in Israel, both on and off the court?
Well, it was an amazing experience. I love the fact that the NCAA allows us to take these trips every 4 years. I look at Coach Brady out there, and I'm sure that he could tell you about some amazing opportunities that they've had. One of the greatest things I've ever done in coaching is every 4 years take these foreign tours. And they're educational. They learn their history. They learn, so many things about the world, okay? And then also we get a chance to play a little basketball and practice, and they also get some exposure with maybe some foreign teams, some international basketball opportunities. So I think it's a great thing. And I think that, quite frankly, we should expand that August basketball period. I think it's a real opportunity. You look right now at what live television is doing in America. The sport. Football hasn't started yet. Hockey and basketball, all that stuff's over. You got baseball, you got golf, you got tennis. They're looking for live programming. Why not have an August window of a few games, whether it's here or whether it's internationally? I think it'd be great. Tie it into some NIL opportunities, and I think the networks would really enjoy it. It would be something, sort of after the summer, and before the fall. So it's a great experience. And by the way, as far as Israel's concerned, one of the top countries in the world as far as basketball. You know, a lot of Richard was talking about the fact that he played in Israel for 3 years for Maccabi Tel Aviv. That's an amazing trip that I'm going to continue to try to get other college teams to go on. You know, because you guys know I'm of my faith, and Jerusalem is God's holy land, and a very, very special place for all the world's religions. Abraham being the father of all nations, and why not bring your kids back there and see where it all started? And so we got some teams that are interested in going back again next year, which I'm very excited about.
Right here up front.
NewBiasWillbornAL.com. Hello, Bruce. Todd earlier, Florida was talking about you. Tell us just a little bit about that relationship and when you found out that he was taking a gig.
There are certain topics that I get talking about that I get emotional about, like all of a sudden, like turning a light switch off. You know, I got a little Dick Vermeil in me. But when you mention Todd Golden, it almost immediately begins to trigger, like if you ask me about my son, Steven. Like, it's emotional. I love Todd. I love him like a son. And I am so proud of him for the coach that he has become, the father that he is, the man that he is. I'm so glad that he's in the league. You know, I think our league did a great job this year hiring some incredible, young, talented, up-and-coming coaches. And he'll be all I can handle as far as what they do and how they do it. It'll be a great challenge. So I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. Florida made a great hire, and that's a place now that expects to win championships at Florida. Because when obviously Coach Donovan was there, they were winning, championships. And Mike was very successful at Florida. Not as successful as Billy, but I would take Mike's record at Florida. I would take that record and be okay with it in the league. So he's following a couple of really good coaches.
Justin Ferguson, Auburn Observer. Bruce, you got Wynn with you today. How much have you seen him grow this offseason into being kind of a leader for this team, both on and off the floor?
You know, Wendell put together some incredible numbers last year. His assist turnover ratio was a national leader. And obviously he's got great range. And, he started out as a mid-major player at Eastern Kentucky, and we didn't have to beat a ton of high majors on him because he's 5'10", 5'11", and he's undersized. And but Wendell's not undersized in any other way other than just where it lines up. He's got great confidence. He makes other guys better. He's dangerous on the floor. And the biggest thing is just physically he's gotten stronger, and defensively he needs to bring it every possession because there's not a lot of margin, a lot of margin for error. He doesn't have a ton of length, like there's certain things like sitting in a 2-3 zone or switching a lot defensively, which is really great to do and hard to go up against. I don't have that luxury because I could have 2 6-foot guards on the floor a lot at the same time.
Up front.
Hey, Coach. AP Stedham, WHEP. Coach, in this era of recruiting, what are the first 3 or 4 questions the prospects ask you now?
Well, I mean, we've always focused on, number one, the Auburn family and Auburn culture and our university, the quality of our university, the fact that our student athletes are graduating and coming in and being successful. People love Auburn that go there. You know what I'm saying? They just do. And our kids, we don't have a lot of guys that want to transfer because they like Auburn, not just they like playing for me. It's a great place. So we still recruit, to that culture. There's a lot of places they can get the basketball, but if they want to hold the full Monty about developing themselves as a student athlete, that's great. We talk about winning championships. We won 3 in the last 5 years in the SEC. We talk about advancing in the tournament, and we talk about sending guys to the pros. We've had, I think, 5 or 6 guys in the last 5 or 6 years that have been drafted and are having great success. So when you put that all together, that's kind of what we're selling. Obviously, there's going to be questions about the support. Every game's sold out. Try to buy a single game ticket to an Auburn basketball game. Go on StubHub. Compare that to going on StubHub, buy a single game ticket to another facility in the country. I'm not so sure that you can't get in. You can't get a ticket. So the environment is great. And obviously we'll get questions about the NIL. And, we have to be competitive in that arena, to be able to maintain. All my rosters have been pre-NIL rosters. And this will be a look at the first post-NIL roster. And, of course, as we continue to move forward, we've got to continue to do a good job in that area.
Right here.
Kyle Tucker, The Athletic. You kind of beat me to the punch on summer basketball, but I'll ask you about one of the other big ideas for the sport right now. Expanding the tournament field is getting some chatter. Where do you come down on that one?
Whatever they decide. It's almost like the rules committee. Whatever they decide. They want to keep it, we want to keep it, I'm fine with it. I have no problem with expanding it. I don't. So I guess I would then be for expansion. I think what I would do is I would look at the other sports, and I would look at what percentage of the other sports teams have an opportunity to be in postseason. And I think in men's basketball, it's a lot less than it is in some of the other sports. And then I know you just had Buzz up here before. Had Texas A&M, if they were the last team that weren't in, that was a team you didn't want to play at the end of the year, because at the end of the year they were playing as good as anybody. It's just like Ole Miss in baseball last year. If they were the last team in and they win the national championship, those are two pretty good arguments to be able to maybe it's time we expand it. And I'm always, when it comes to rules, what's in the best interest of the student athletes? If more student athletes get an opportunity to play in that NCAA tournament and have that one shining moment, I am definitely for it.
In the back.
John Zeno with Associated Press. You talked last March, you said the SEC was going to get crushed, I guess, from critics or whatever, because they didn't have a lot of teams advance in the NCAA tournament. Given how far some of these programs have come, is it almost reasonable to say, instead of just talking about we're going to get 6 or 7 teams in, that we've got 5 or 6 or 7 who, if things fall right, they could go pretty far in the tournament?
I mean, I don't think I can sit here and predict who's getting in or how far they can go. And I don't know if this is true, but I've experienced this myself. When you're in a league like we were in last year, and you're competing for an SEC championship, it is a grind. The year that we went to the Final Four, we finished 5th in the SEC. I don't think we underachieved, but we didn't overachieve. And at the end of the year, we kind of like, man, we're a pretty good team. What do we got to show for it? And then we got hot at the end of the year. We won the last 4 regular season games. We went to the SEC tournament in Nashville, won 4 games. And then we won, 3, I guess it was, I guess we had to win 4 games. So we were 12-0 in March. So I'm not going to make any excuses for last year, but I think when you're in a great league and there's a grind in that league, I think sometimes you look at football. If you look at to SEC football, to go through SEC football every single weekend. There are no weekends off in SEC football. There aren't many off at all now in basketball. There are leagues in this country, other leagues in this country, other Power 5 leagues. There are a couple weekends off. They're pretty excited about playing an SEC team. We get to, in football, we get there and, it's hard after you've just played Alabama or Georgia or the teams that are really, really good. So I think in some ways the quality of our league kind of beat us up. Last year, the ACC had a great NCAA tournament. Unbelievable. Great. I mean, what a run they had. The league wasn't as good top to bottom. It wasn't. And so, therefore, I think some of those best teams in our league, they were pretty excited about getting into that tournament. And they showed it.
Very back.
Hey, Bruce. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I was reading that I guess Alan Flanagan took a leave of absence. Now he's back, and he's competing with Moore, who's another Arkansas kid. I was wondering, how's Alan doing? How good is it to have him back? What are you expecting from him? And then Chris is a guy that hadn't played a lot of minutes, but sounds like you're higher on him too.
You know what, Bob? Our great strength, our basketball team's great strength is I got 13 really good players. I really do. And there is great competition and depth at every position. And if I had to put out a starting 5 right now, I could tell you that really, truly, there's only one position of the 5 where I know who's going to start. That means the other 4 right now are up in the air. It's pretty close to our first game. which tells you we've got great depth and there is great competition. And so we'll be learning an awful lot about our team as we go. So Alan and Chris, they're right there. They're neck and neck, and they're battling it out. And one is going to start, and the other one's going to come off the bench, and one's going to end. And so they're both going to play.
Right here. Kevin.
Great. It's great. It's great to have him back healthy. And, he's physically healthy. And, Alan Flanagan is one of the best athletes in the SEC, trying to become one of the better basketball players in the SEC. He's big, strong, fast, physical, skilled, and just going to utilize that athleticism and have it be, where he can be productive. That's a very important, his athleticism, his power, his strength, very important part of his game. And so him back healthy is good.
Hey, Kevin Skarbinski from the SEC blog. Kamani Johnson from Arkansas was flashing back to that game last year, the celebration, the atmosphere, and he said it was like crossing an item off your bucket list. What does that say about where Auburn basketball is today?
Wow, Kevin. Obviously, that's a great compliment, to Auburn and Auburn basketball when we get to go to Arkansas and play in that historic building and that historic town for great college basketball and have that be a bucket list game. Again, I go back and look at Coach Brady, and I know he played against some pretty good Auburn teams, but I don't think that wasn't a game he had circled on his calendar. So if we've got a few teams in our league that are looking at Auburn as a game they got to get to advance, that's why I came to Auburn. And look, it's easier to get it going than it is to keep it going. And we'll see if we can keep it going. But it's a great compliment. And that was the hardest, toughest environment that we had last year was at Arkansas. And we played great. And I don't think Arkansas had a field goal in overtime. And I'm not sure they had very many. I'm not sure they had Bob, how many field goals did Arkansas have in the last overtime and end of regulation? Yeah, sure.
All right, last question right here.
Bruce, JoeGoodmanAO.com. What is the practical application of NIL in the college basketball arena? Because we're only a few years away, removed, I guess, from the FBI investigation into that, paying of players.
Well, one of the great things about NIL, I'm going to tell you a great story, true story. So I get a text from KD. And you all know me and KD have got this very special relationship. He's my maniac, not anybody else's. And he texts me and he tells me how much the relationship matters to him and how much he appreciates the fact that I've always had his back and that I let him be him and he's got my back. It was wonderful. I immediately, after getting that text message, called my son and said, "What has he done and what haven't you told me he has done?" He's like, "Dad, I don't think he does anything. I don't think he's done anything wrong." And it was then that I realized that he got his first NIL check. Probably the biggest check he's ever gotten in his life. I don't know, and I actually did wind up asking him what was that all about, and he said that was it. And so now what he was able to do for himself and his family was significant. So I know we got problems with the consistency and things like that. Stories like that are true stories are why I think NIL is a good thing, and we just got to figure out how to manage it. It's new, so we're all trying to get a hold of it.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Thank you. I'm sorry, how many? Thank you. 1.